Hey everyone, welcome back to the Addicted Bookworm. So instead of me doing this on my comic book channel, I decided to do it here because, yeah, Storygraph considers this a book. So guess what? I'm going to do it. So if you guys had Netflix a couple of years ago, there was a show called The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and it was basically about this teenage girl called Sabrina Spellman, who is a half witch, half mortal, and she goes through some pretty harrowing adventures and situations where it seems like everybody, everybody was trying to get her to do stuff she did not want to do. Probably my favorite part of the whole thing was her view about deals. She did not make deals with people. She did not. She took over for her father, Lucifer Morningstar, as like basically the overseer of hell, and she didn't make deals. She was like, "Yeah, you do bad, I'm going to get you." I loved how she got the ice cream man. Thought it was absolutely amazing. The thing about this version of Sabrina was that it was a much more darker one, and a lot of people, especially in the Christian community, like they did with Lucifer, they really were not a fan of this show. I watched it because I was a fan of the 90s television show, and in one of the episodes, they did bring back the TV show Hilda and Zelda, which were played by, of course, the same actresses. They were trying to get the voice actor who played the original Salem to take part in it, but apparently he was either busy or he just decided he just didn't want to do it. So they actually had the actor who played Lucifer Morningstar to play Salem Saberhagen. And just like his TV counterpart, this Salem Saberhagen in fact talked. One of the huge differences between the comic book and the show is that Sabrina's cousin is white. In the TV show, he's black. I don't even know how that even worked. I don't. I'm sorry, but that's just not how genetics work. It is not how genetics work. I don't even know how they explained it. But I did finish this one right here. This is issue number 2. I do like it that there's comic books on here, and I can read them on Kobo Plus, which is great. So this one, of course, we have the appearance of a character called Madam Satan, and Madam Satan is Lilith, and in the they go with the original myth that Lilith was the first wife of Adam, and she was kicked out of kicked out of Eden because she refused to submit to Adam. So in that one, we definitely see that, and that's how she ended up becoming, Lucifer's right hand gal. She was promised to become the Queen of Hell. That was in the TV show. But in this one, Madam Satan, so basically what happens is she goes and she adopts this form of this woman from that, I think she lives in a trailer park or something like that. And she actually arrives in Riverdale I think it's Riverdale, I believe that's the name of where Sabrina's at. Anyways, so she's there, and she finds Sabrina's mother, who is currently kicking it up at the mental institution, and she does something to her. She's still very ticked off about Edward choosing a mortal over her. Anyways, definitely different. Definitely different. The first 2 were available on Kobo Plus. This volume number 3 is you have to actually buy it. It's like 89 cents, so it's not too bad. I'm not going to pick it up. I just wanted to read it without having to pay for it. But yeah, so I just went ahead and went off my Kobo because I'm done reading it. But that was interesting. Definitely a lot different than the TV show, which tells a lot about when they adapt something like that into TV. A lot of times they decide, we've read all these issues and all that, and we decided we're just not interested in keeping it faithful to the source material. So I'm going to send this back. Yep. So, I've got 6 Kobo Plus books, which I am fine with. I'm fine with. And I have 26 more books to read. Most of, 6 of, so 20 of them I actually own, and 6 of them are on Kobo Plus. So, remember to phrase that. 19 I own, 1 is a library book, and 6 of them are Kobo Plus books. I'm not really going to be purchasing the Kobo Plus books. I'm just going to read them and then return them back to Kobo. But yeah, so I really enjoyed the comic book. As I said, it's very dark, it's very occult-like. So if you are somebody that just does not like that kind of stuff, then definitely this comic book series would not be for you. It really puts the Archie characters, and Sabrina is very much part of that world, because in the comic book series, in the original comic book, Sabrina is not a dark character. She's kind of like this fun-loving, kind of perky witch. So it doesn't have the same kind of tone that we see in this series. That was mainly for one reason, and I will explain the reason. So, in the Comic Code Authority era, which ended in the early 2000s, when basically they could no longer control what people really wanted to read. That's why you didn't have like gay characters and trans characters and stuff like that. You had this kind of rules that concerned like comic books of all kinds. That's why the comic books of like the comic book strips as well as the comic books, they were very different than the comic books and comic strips that we have today. So because there was rules concerning what could be shown, what could not be shown. So this is why the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is a fairly new installment in the comic book thing, because back then, if you wanted to show, a witch, you had to kind of make her a little mischievous, but she couldn't be dark, and there couldn't be like satanic symbols and stuff like that in it, which the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina does in fact push that envelope and say, okay, look, or take it back, there is no envelope at all, because there is no Comic Code Authority anymore. So the Comic Code Authority came about because they did not want the federal government to be regulating comic books, so that's what they did. So Sabrina, even in the after the code, you had Sabrina the Teenage Witch. She was like mischievous and she was fun and all that type of stuff. And Salem Saberhagen was a nuisance. But in these Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, they show witches as what society views them as being dark, in league with Satan, and all that type of stuff. But it also shows that the powers that they get are genetic, or the powers they get are a byproduct of the pact that their parents made to the Dark Lord. So when apparently when witches and warlocks make pacts with the Dark Lord, any children that they have will have the ability to do magic. And in the comic book, unlike the TV show, Sabrina goes to the unseen school. This is basically where witches and warlocks that are a certain age, they go there to learn their craft. They learn all sorts of stuff that children should not be learning. And in the first issue, I don't know if I did a review of or did an impression video of issue number 1 of this comic book, but in the comic book, Sabrina is looked down upon because she's not a full witch. They call her like a half-breed and all that stuff. And her aunts are very concerned about what this is doing to Sabrina's self-confidence and all that type of stuff. And so that is why they move house to get away from, and they actually join another coven. So the coven that they're in the comic book is not the same coven that they were raised in. So you can go from one coven to a next and stuff like that. But even in this coven, she's still looked down upon because of her heritage. And it really shows like how close-minded even witches are, because it's like Sabrina can't help it that her mother's mortal. That is not a choice that she made, but they kind of act like it is a choice that she made. But there is always a hidden reason why this happens. Also, Edward was the high priest of this coven, and so I think pretty much like he could do whatever he wanted. But then you have like the council. I think they kind of take the council, like the witches' council, because the witches' council is responsible for Salem becoming a cat, and Sabrina's cousin having the punishment that he got. So they do, in fact, punish people that cross a certain line they're not supposed to cross, like taking people's hands off, apparently, to the witches' council. That was crossing a line you're not supposed to cross. So it's very dark and very much not the same Sabrina that you essentially remember. And even the actress, Melissa Joan Hart, who did get backlash for playing a witch, she actually watched a little bit of it with her co-star who played Harvey Kinkle. And yeah, also interestingly enough, is Harvey Kinkle in the comic book does not fall in love with Sabrina the normal way. She actually uses magic to manipulate his emotional state, which was a big no-no. But there was nothing that Salem could do. He could advise her not to do it, but he could not tell her she couldn't do it. So, anyways, or he couldn't control her actions. Anyways, I enjoyed the 2 volumes I got for free from Kobo Plus. As I said, volume 3 is 89 cents. I think these comic books are like extremely cheap on Kobo, which is great if you're on if you just want to pick up like a really cheap comic book, you can do that. But I'm really eager to see what happens in volume 3, but I'm not going to pick up volume 3 this month. What I will probably end up doing is going ahead and getting volumes 1 and 2 and have it downloaded onto my Kobo, and then next month I will get volume 3. So we'll see how much how much it costs to actually purchase it, and everything. But it's really cool they have these comics. I really want to also read some of the other darker, like Archie, because I know like Betty and Veronica are witches. I think they're part of a different coven, or they might be part of the same coven. I don't really know. But I really like the comic book much better than I did the show. I really, really do. So we'll see what happens, and I will see you guys next time.